Breaking news. What's up, Blue and Silver Nation? Today wasn't easy. Our Detroit Lions stepped onto the field against Texas with heart and determination, but unfortunately, we walked away with a loss. It's that mix of sadness and frustration every fan knows too well. We expected more. We wanted more. And it hurts to see the team stumble like this. But listen, this season is long, and our faith stays strong. This is just one chapter in a story that's far from over, and I believe the Lions will bounce back and prove what they're made of. So hold on to that energy, because there's still a lot of football left, and we're in this together until the very end. And before we dive deeper, don't forget to smash that like button, because this Lions family is strong, united, and passionate. Every bit of your support helps spread the voice of the Blue and Silver Nation. Go Lions! The preseason is finally behind us, and now all eyes are on the regular season. Lions fans, we waited months for football, and even though preseason gave us a taste, it's the real thing that gets the heart pumping. And here we are, just a week and a half away from Lions versus Packers. One of those games that already feels bigger than just a matchup. But before we leap ahead, let's break down what we just witnessed in the preseason finale. Because while the scoreboard doesn't matter, the stories of the players do. And what unfolded in this game tells us a lot about who might carry the Honolulu Blue forward, and who may have just written their last chapter in Detroit. First, the star of the moment, Isaac TeSlaa. 3 touchdowns this preseason. Read that again. 3 touchdowns. The guy has looked like a seasoned NFL wideout, not some untested newcomer. His size, his ability to separate, his smooth speed, and the way he snatches the ball out of the air. It all screams #1 receiver. I know some people hesitate to crown him that quickly, but the tape doesn't lie. And here's the kicker. The Lions may have 3 #1s in Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and now TeSlaa. Imagine trying to defend that trio plus Gibbs, Montgomery, and Sam Laporta, all with Jared Goff distributing. That's not just depth. That's elite firepower. That's the kind of offense that keeps defensive coordinators awake at night. Now, here's where the curiosity builds. We didn't get to see guys like Chase Meeks or Lovett in this game. That hurts, because preseason reps are everything for fringe players. Without those snaps, their chances of sticking to the roster drop dramatically, unless injuries open the door. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes probably already have their receiver numbers in mind. 5, 6, or maybe even 7, but without seeing Meeks and Lovett, fans are left wondering. I'll say it now. I'd lean towards 6 receivers, but what do you think? Because decisions like this shape the identity of the depth chart. But not every storyline is positive. Hendon Hooker, he has regressed brutally. 4
fumbles, 2 interceptions, barely 50% completions, just 117 yards. Numbers like that don't justify a roster spot in the NFL. We're talking about production that wouldn't cut it in college anymore. And when you stack him against guys like Kennelly, Sailors, or even fringe receivers like Meeks and Levite, the reality hits. Hooker just hasn't earned it. This isn't about potential anymore. It's about performance. And right now the performance isn't there. Meanwhile, Kyle Allen has been the surprise. I'll admit, some didn't expect much when he arrived. But look at what he's done. 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, and a steady improvement from the Hall of Fame game to now. Against the final preseason opponent, he was flawless, 100% completion in 2 drives. That's confidence. That's growth. And that's a guy who has made a legitimate claim to the QB2 spot. If you told me at the start of preseason that Allen would secure the backup job, I might have laughed. Now, I'm convinced. He earned it, plain and simple. And if Goff needs a breather, Lions fans can feel a little safer with Allen stepping in. Beyond quarterbacks and wideouts, there were other names that turned heads. Running back Jacob Sailors brought explosive speed, hitting the hole with burst and surprising power. Originally, Craig Reynolds looked like the clear RB4, but Sailors has pushed his way into the conversation. Could you imagine Sailors as the 4th running back? That's not a luxury. That's an embarrassment of riches. And whichever back doesn't make the cut, Reynolds or Sailors, they're not sticking around long. Another team will scoop them up, because both have shown they belong in the league. Defensively, things got messy in this last outing. The unit gave up 26 points, but here's the truth. Don't panic. 95% of the guys who are out there aren't going to be starting when real football begins. We're talking about fringe players fighting for practice squad life. That being said, we did see flashes. Alquadin Muhammad added a sack. Zach Cunningham continued to shine at linebacker, and Nate Lynn flashed with multiple pressures. The linebacker room is absurdly deep, maybe too deep to keep everyone, which means Detroit is about to lose some real talent to other teams. On the other side, Brick Martin struggled again, and frankly, it's hard to see him sticking around. Aga didn't deliver, while Luku and Trevor Noski gave glimpses of value that may just earn them roster spots, at least initially. This is the hard truth of preseason. Talented players will be cut. And for Detroit, that's actually a good problem. It shows just how far the roster has come. We're no longer scraping to find bodies to fill depth. Now we're forced to let go of guys who could start elsewhere. And that reality, that's the sign of a team ready to compete deep into the season. So here we are, Lions fans. The preseason is behind us, the Packers await, and the final 53-man roster looms large. Monday is cut day, and it's going to sting watching certain names leave, because many of them deserve to be here. But that's the price of progress. This team is stacked with talent, and the choices Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell make in the next few days will shape the season ahead. Now I want to hear from you. Who impressed you the most this preseason? Is Isaac Teslaw already your WR1? Has Kyle Allen earned your trust as QB2? And how many receivers should the Lions carry? 5, 6, or 7? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started. And let's be honest, Lions fans, the energy right now feels different than in years past. This isn't the same old Detroit team scraping by, trying to build an identity. No, this roster is stacked with real talent at almost every position. You look across the offense, and you can't help but feel like it's one of the most dangerous units in the entire NFC. Jared Goff is coming off one of his most efficient seasons, protected by one of the best defensive lines in football, and now surrounded by weapons that can stretch the field, dominate underneath, and punish defenses on the ground. When you add a guy like Isaac Teslaw exploding onto the scene, the potential becomes terrifying for any defense lining up against Detroit. But depth doesn't just live on offense. Defensively, the first-team unit has already shown they can be special. Sure, the third and fourth stringers gave up plays in preseason, but that's not the group that's going to be hunting Aaron Rodgers, or in this case, Jordan Love and the Packers, come opening week. We're talking about Aiden Hutchinson leading a defensive line that can create chaos, Al-Quadin Muhammad bringing veteran savvy, and a linebacker room so loaded that legitimate starters will have to be cut. Zach Cunningham is the perfect example, flying around the field, making plays, and showing he belongs in the mix. It's a bittersweet reminder. When a guy like Cunningham could get squeezed out because of numbers, it means the Lions finally have something fans have begged for years, quality depth everywhere. And then there's the emotional side of this story. Watching players like Kyle Allen prove doubters wrong, or Sailors forcing his way into the running back conversation, creates a spark of excitement. These are the kinds of stories that remind us football is more than stats. It's about grit, resilience, and seizing opportunities when they appear. Allen came into camp as an afterthought, and now he's in line to be QB2, a safety net behind Goff. Sailors looked like a long shot, and now he's pushing veterans for a roster spot. These moments shape the DNA of a team, and they're why fans get attached during preseason, even if the games don't count on the record. Of course, not every storyline ends on a high. Hendon Hooker's struggles have become